You saw the thumbnail, you saw the title, you know what's going on. I'm ranking some ways to hide a body. By the way, I'm ranking them based off of how likely I think you are to get caught by the cops. The first method I'm ranking is a classic, burying the body. This method is pretty solid, but there are a few flaws. For one thing, the police dogs are easily gonna sniff out the body. And for another thing, you gotta dig a 6-foot deep hole. And I can imagine that's gonna take a long time. So if you do bury the body, you have to go into hiding and wait until it decomposes into a skeleton. Until you realize that dogs can apparently smell skeletons, so that's a thing. So yeah, basically, if you bury the body, you're cooked. I'd say you only have like a 20% chance of pulling it off. For these reasons, I'm gonna have to put burying the body in C tier. Method number 2 is putting the body in the dumpster. And honestly, how dumb do you have to be to do this? That body's immediately gonna be sent to a landfill, which, by the way, has people working there. These people are going to notice that there's a body just lying in the trash, like right here or something. They're going to call the cops, and then you're cooked. You're going in jail for the rest of your life. This method gets an easy D tier, no questions asked. If you happen to be a murderer who's watching this video and you hid the body by throwing it in the trash, I just want you to know that you're dumb. Like, you're actually dumb. That's like the worst possible way you could have hid it. And you're definitely getting caught by the police. There's no shot you don't. Method number 3 is dumping the body into some kind of body of water. This method can really vary a lot because there's just so many different types of bodies of water. Let's go over the options, alright? You got rivers, you got ponds, you got lakes, and you got streams. And then you just have the entire ocean, which is just like huge. Like, you could basically put the body anywhere if you're hiding it in the ocean. But not all bodies of water are created equally, you see. Some are good at hiding bodies, and some others not so much. So I'll just quickly discuss the types of bodies of water that aren't great for hiding bodies in, and then after that I'll discuss the ones that I feel like are a good choice for hiding bodies in. First of all, a pond is a pretty obviously terrible hiding spot for a body because, for one thing, they're always really shallow, making the body visible to people, and for another thing, they're always next to some kind of business or town or something, where a bunch of people just are walking around. On top of all that, the body's just gonna kind of float there because there's never really that much of a current in ponds. So yeah, a pond is definitely not a good place to hide a body. And the same thing goes for lakes too, because they're also always next to some kind of populated area like a town or something. And while lakes do have some kind of water flow, unlike most ponds, it's still really minimal and it's not going to make that much of a difference. So the body's still probably just going to float there. But I guess with lakes, you could weigh down the body, since lakes are way deeper than ponds, and if something's at the bottom of a lake, it's not visible from the surface. But still, I feel like with the amount of people who live next to lakes, take their boats out on lakes, and go fishing in lakes, it's only a matter of time before the body is found. So yeah, lakes are definitely not a good option. But you want to know what's an even worse option than lakes and ponds? Streams. I mean, streams are like 3 feet deep at most. The body would basically be fully exposed, and it would probably just end up getting caught behind some kind of rock waiting to be found by someone. Streams are easily the worst body of water to hide a body in. So that just leaves us with rivers and the ocean, which are both pretty good options if you ask me. All in all, rivers are a pretty good choice, but they do have a few downsides. Rivers usually have a lot of towns and even cities next to them, and sometimes they also have cargo ships that are transporting goods along them. Despite all this activity that usually goes on rivers, I still feel like the body would just end up being swept away by the current and going to the end of the river to some kind of ocean or bay, being unnoticed by the public. And once it makes it to a larger body of water, there's no shot anyone's ever gonna find it, simply because of how vast and deep they are. So yeah, rivers are definitely a pretty good place to hide a body in. But wait, remember how I said that the entire reason it's a good hiding spot is because the body will most likely end up in the ocean? Basically, without oceans, rivers will be a terrible hiding spot for bodies. Oceans make rivers a good hiding spot. So naturally, the ocean is gonna be a better hiding spot than a river. All you really gotta do with the oceans is take the body out on a boat maybe half a mile off the coast, at night of course so nobody sees you, and then just weigh it down so it sinks to the bottom. And just like that, there's a very low chance that anyone's ever gonna find that body. Anyways, I'm probably gonna have to rank bodies of water as a whole as a B tier hiding spot, simply because of how some bodies of water are terrible hiding spots and some are pretty good. Like, I'd probably say the ocean is upper A tier and rivers are lower A tier, but all the rest are kind of trash, so I gotta rank it in the middle. Moving on to method number 4, which is burning the body. Let me tell you guys right now, this method is so overpowered. I mean, all you gotta do is light the body on fire, and it'll be reduced to ash, which you can then spread around the forest or something, I don't know. Anyways, my point is, the cops are never gonna be able to find the body because there is no body to find. Plus, it's just really easy to do. All you need is some gasoline, a match, and an area with no witnesses. And just like that, you're set. You're not going to jail anytime soon. This method gets an easy S tier. Not just because of how unlikely you are to get caught, but also because of how easy it is to do. Method number 5 is cutting the body up into a bunch of pieces and scattering those pieces all around the place, like in a forest or something, which seems to be my example for a place to hide a body. But anyways, let me tell you why this method is absolute trash. For one thing, the police dogs are almost definitely going to smell out the body. And for another thing, you got to do all that work of cutting up the body and scattering the pieces in a bunch of random places. Like, nobody wants to do that. It's all that work just to end up in jail like a week later. I'm going to have to give this method a D tier. There's just really no point in doing it when there's so many easier and more effective ways to hide a body. Method number 6 is burying the body except in someone else's grave. Now, this can be a good method if you're discreet about it, but there are a few ways you can mess it up, so you have to do it in a very particular way. First, you gotta do it at night, preferably when it's really cold out to ensure that nobody's outside. Then, you gotta make sure that if someone does end up seeing you, that they can't identify you. You can do this by wearing some kind of mask and a hoodie. And finally, you gotta bury the body in the grave of someone who has recently died so it doesn't seem suspicious that there's just a patch of dirt there. If you do this one right, the cops probably won't even search the right areas. But if they do, their dogs won't even be able to smell out the body because of all the other bodies in the cemetery. I can't really put this method in S tier though because it's way less convenient than burning the body due to the fact that you have to dig a 6-foot deep hole, so I'll put it in A tier. Moving on to method number 7, which is just leaving the body in the woods. This method's kind of similar to dismembering the body and scattering its pieces everywhere, except the only difference with this one is the body's not in pieces, it's fully intact. Which, by the way, is a bad thing because it makes it 10 times easier for the cops to find the body. They wouldn't even need to use any dogs to sniff it out. All they would need is their own 2 eyes because the body would basically just be sitting there in plain sight. I guess you could use some kind of combination of leaves and sticks to cover up the body, but that's not going to get you very far. Anyways, this method is even worse than dismembering the body, because at least with dismembering the body, you can scatter the body parts around, and you can hide each part of the body in a tiny enclosed space that people are unlikely to find without dogs. But with this one, the body's just sitting there waiting to be found, so obviously I'm gonna rank it at D tier. Method number 8 is dissolving the body in acid. This method is sort of similar to burning the body because in both methods, the body gets fully destroyed. But with this method, it's way easier to be discreet about it. With the fire method, you have to do it outside, which might draw attention to yourself because of all the light and smoke the fire makes. With this method, it's way easier to just do it in your house without anyone noticing. Of course, there is a bad side to dissolving the body in acid. I did a little bit of research, and assuming the body weighs 180 pounds and you're using hydrochloric acid, you're going to need 25 gallons of the stuff, a week of time, and $1,600. Because for some reason, hydrochloric acid costs $65 a gallon. Meanwhile, a gallon of gas costs like $3 to $4, and you probably wouldn't even need the whole gallon to burn a body. Because of all these downsides, I'm gonna have to rank dissolving the body in acid lower than burning the body. So I'll say A tier. Number 9 is just not even bothering to hide the body. Like maybe you just put it in your basement and forget about it. Now obviously this method is trash. I mean, you're not even hiding the body, you're just letting it sit there. But I have to give some credit where credit is due. Unlike with burying the body or hiding it somewhere in the woods, with this method, you don't have to do any work. You just have to let the body sit in your house and rot away. And if I'm gonna be honest, you're probably just as likely to get caught by the police. Because of that, I'm gonna have to rank not hiding the body at all above hiding it in the woods and on the same level as burying it, at C tier. Method 10 is eating the body. I know what you're probably thinking right now. Ew, that's disgusting. That's cannibalism. Why would you even consider that as an option? But think about it. Maybe you cook up a nice big pot of soup, you use the bones to make the broth, everything is going well, it's a bunch of free food. I mean, I feel like it probably wouldn't even end up tasting bad. Plus, I'm also curious. I want to know what human tastes like. Okay, I seriously need to stop. Anyways, let me get to the point. There's no shot the cops are gonna find the body if you literally ate it, so I'm gonna have to rank this method in S tier. Method number 11, the final method, is hiding the body in someone else's house. This method does seem pretty good at first. I mean, you're literally just framing someone else until you realize that most houses are in relatively crowded areas with a lot of people. So it's gonna be pretty hard to carry around a body and break into someone's house and put the body in their house without having any witnesses. Also, a lot of people have Ring cameras, so there's that to consider as well. Honestly, you might as well not even hide the body at all because that'll be just as effective. This method is getting a C tier. Now that I've ranked all these methods of hiding a body, it's time to review the list. In D tier, we have throwing the body in the dumpster, dismembering it and scattering the pieces all over the place, and hiding it in the woods. In C tier, we have burying it, not hiding it, and hiding it in someone else's house. In B tier, we have throwing it into a body of water. In A tier, we have burying it at a cemetery and dissolving it with acid. And finally, in S tier, we have burning it and eating it. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure to like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton. And also join the Discord server using the link in my channel's description to become an egg yolk. But on that note, I'm out. Peace.